Hello and welcome to my jungle guide. So today I'm going to teach you how to play Urgot, and I'm going to play while I'm speaking. So, what Urgot Jungle truly is a utility carry. You have many options to play the game. It mostly depends on how your laning phase is playing, what laners you have, how they're winning, how they're losing. But TLDR about Urgot is he's a strong farming jungler who plays for his teammates. So on Urgot Jungle, rarely ever do you want to actually be taking kills. Urgot Jungle is, since he's utility and a carry, you want to be giving resources to your teammates. So let's say you have a Kassadin mid laner, you can E-flash and kill the laner, then give the kill to Kassadin. Now you've created a win con in mid lane. You can gank top lane pretty easily as Urgot. You just have to, like... So let's say you're ganking your teammate on this side of the map. You want to hug this wall to cut off the area here. You have a very strong slow in your Q. You have a very good grab in your E. Etc, etc. So the most important thing is just recognizing that you just need to give resources to your teammates when playing Urgot Jungle. You can play a carry-oriented playstyle, like again, he's a utility carry, but Urgot functions on such little resources that he doesn't really need to take them. So, I'm going to show you a leashless clear. I might mess up, I'm doing this live. But he has one of the healthiest clears due to his interaction with Fleet. You don't buy a potion because you run Fleet. I guarantee you I'll be full HP by the time this clear is done, despite doing it on my own. In solo queue, you might be getting a leash, but Urgot doesn't really need them. As you can see, I'm starting W to do the red buff, and I'm going to be pathing into my blue side. So I do this pathing probably every single lobby, so we're going to order this again. Smite, take E level 2, E through the scuttle, make sure you hit the red buff on the small Krug, and then pull the buff over here. The reason you're pulling it to the right is because you're going to start walking to the left, and you want the Krugs to spawn in an area that you can kill with one of your legs. So this Krug is going to pop. And then you want to use one of your legs downwards. I've actually cleared it so quickly that I messed it up because my leg wasn't spawning. But the general idea is you want to use the south-facing or right-facing leg downwards through the Krugs to damage them, because your jungle pet will kill the minions there. But I was clearing too efficiently that the camps are already dying. So this is a mega perfect clear that ended up skewing me there. For the raptors, you want to start by altering the big raptor, E-ing through them, and then spending your legs on the big camp, which you'll notice is a common theme. The smaller camps on these, the minor camps, not the big wolf, the small wolves, they will die to your jungle pet and your AoE alone, so you don't need to expend any resources on damaging these. So you get the blue buff. You can opt to smite this or not, but notice my health, I'm currently full HP. But one small trick you can do to multi-clear here is get the blue buff down in HP. You're going to Q Gromp. Gromp's going to walk out. You're going to go here, E through it, and then you use your E on both camps. That's probably the most amount of tech you have when it comes to like multi-camping or whatever. But as you can see, as I said at the start of this video, I'm going to be full clear. I'm going to be full HP from my full clear, right? Obviously, I haven't done optimal pathing, but this is a 327 clear. I probably can clear by 317, 310 if I use both my spites. But now I'm at Scuttle, I'm full HP, I'm an Urgot who's a great sprawling champion on level 4. And now here's where you determine, is it worth fighting for the Scuttle? So let's say you've got a Garen top lane with Ignite. Enemy laner is Darius of Ghost. Darius is the common counterpick to top lane. Let's say you've got Kassadin mid lane, and the enemy mid laner here is something better early game, like a Talon, right? So you have a weaker top laner and a weaker mid laner out of virtue of Darius countering Garen and Kassadin being a scaling champion. So this is the kind of angle where you would look to get this Scuttle Crab without a full engage. So this would be a Smite steal, or maybe the enemy jungle was path here, because if, let's say the enemy jungle was a Viego, Zinzao, Jax, they're going to go red buff here, 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 and here. So the enemy red buff is, enemy laner is going to be here, you're here. Now you determine, hey, is my top laner's wave state in a good enough position to gank? Is my mid laner's wave state in a good enough position to gank? If no, immediately recall. The reason we recall it here is because we're looking for movement speed to enable our pick further. So, when it comes to itemization, you want to go into the Boots of Swiftness or Retrix. You are rushing Hullbreaker on Urgot Jungle, despite, you know, only damaging camps. Hullbreaker doesn't damage camps. But Hullbreaker is good for accessing turrets. If, let's say, you kill the enemy mid laner, when you have Hullbreaker, you'll end up taking 3 or 4 plates. So, Hullbreaker Urgot is very good on jungle, in my opinion, because you have such good access towards turrets and laners you kill. So, instead of just being, like, trapped in lane against one person, you're now trapping them in their lane, because if they leave their turret for a couple seconds, you as Urgot Jungle can just start pathing towards their turrets. So let's say enemy top laner is low, we can just walk up top. But generally speaking, you always want to be prioritizing your resources in bot lane. Bot lane is currently the most important role in League of Legends. Obviously, out of virtue of 2 people being there, if you impact bot lane, you're impacting 2 players on the enemy team. So, ideally what you want to be doing is every single game is the pathing I showed you here, which is red buff Krugs, Raptors into Wolves, then blue buff Gromp here, and then you want to reset. As soon as you reset, start pathing bot lane, buy Swifty Boots, Retrix, buy Swifty Boots, you want to get out on the map earlier. It mostly depends on your bot lane. Let's say you have Morgana, Caitlyn. That's a matchup you might see sometimes. You pair Caitlyn with champions that have stuns. So you have Morgana, Caitlyn. That's reliable gank setup. If the enemy team are overextending, you want to be going bot lane. The other most important thing about Urgot Jungle is that you're using your flash on cooldown. This is the most important thing about Urgot Jungle, which is why I also recommend experimentation with your runes. So there's this one rune called Cosmic Insight. It allows you to flash more, and it'll also lower the cooldown on your smite, but that's more niche. Getting the extra couple seconds on your flash to catch the enemy team off guard is the most important thing with Urgot Jungle. Because if you get a double kill on bot lane, even the kills go to you, enemy bot lane is now incredibly behind. So not only have you benefited your bot lane, you've also put the enemy bot lane behind. So you create a leverage here with your flash. So as soon as you have flash up, you should always be looking to gank. Ignore that your red buff is spawning, your camps up topside are spawning. You want to use your flash in the most impactful way to get momentum in the lobby. So this is when you start looking for bot lane. I'm also going to give you a recommendation to a player. He's called Coolomat22. He is probably the best Urgot Jungle. He's better than me easily. I'm not a jungler. At heart, I'm a mid laner. I'm forced to be a top laner because Urgot is mostly viable in top lane, but I'm a mid laner and Coolomat is predominantly a jungler. Coolomat22, our link is OPGG in the description. He is a jungler who just also happens to main Urgot, right? So I recommend you look at his rune pages, his methodologies and stuff like that. I believe he's going with Stridebreaker first item, which I see is highly valid. Stridebreaker, you know, you E forward, Stridebreaker, take their movement speed, get movement speed to stick onto them. We just have different ways of approaching the game, but his ways are probably more valid than mine. So credit where it is due. Check out Coolomat. So I'll give you all the ways I see the game. So let's say you're playing standard. You can just default to Hullbreaker. Hullbreaker has a really good build path, as you can see on the screen right now. Hullbreaker builds out of Tunneler, Retrix, and Pickaxe. Retrix is a really good component for Urgot. Pickaxe is a really good component for Urgot. And Tunneler is kind of bad, but it's not terrible, right? And that's the good thing. So this is like B, Z tier, Z tier. Builds into Hullbreaker, one of Urgot's best items in the game. It gives you access to turrets. It does more damage to Barons and Dragons and Grubs. So if you can go Hullbreaker, I would always go Hullbreaker. You can start Youmuu's, even though Youmuu's is bad. Youmuu's is bad for top lane only, in my opinion. Because top lane, you really need the movement speed, you really need the stats to be fighting somebody constantly. But in the jungle, if you're showing up to a lane with 18 lethality, 60 AD, and the opportunity to get 15% bonus movement speed for 6 seconds, it usually ends up in a guaranteed gank angle working well. So Youmuu's, I do highly recommend. Hullbreaker, I highly recommend. Stridebreaker, I highly recommend. It comes down to individual playstyles. Maybe you're a player who thrives better on Hullbreaker. Maybe you thrive better with lethality. If you man with lethality, you're a bit squishier. Stridebreaker will obviously give you a bit more bulk. Stridebreaker, in my opinion, has always been considered like high-low Youmuu's. So if you want to abuse bad players, this will give you the most map momentum. Stridebreaker will give you the most gank potential against better players. And Hullbreaker will give you more objective control and more reliability in the lobby. After you build any of these items, go Black Cleaver second, in my opinion. You can go Hullbreaker, Black Cleaver, Stridebreaker, Black Cleaver, Youmuu's Black Cleaver. And then after that, you want to determine furthermore what you want to do in the lobby. So let's say you went for the Stridebreaker build path. You go Stridebreaker, then you go Cleaver, and then after Cleaver, you go Sterax. This is a really good pre-core item. But if you're going Youmuu's, you want to go Youmuu's into Cleaver, and then after Cleaver, you can consider Edge of Night. So Edge of Night is a lethality item. It gives you a spell shield. This is a really slept-on item in League of Legends, in my opinion. I think a lot more people should be building Edge of Night. It's just a very good item. Lethality scales with lethality, so you want to be building more carry-oriented. If you go Hullbreaker into Cleaver, and then after Cleaver, you go Sterax. Again, very, very common. This is probably just best in slot build in general. It's more reliable, more safe. It's probably the best introductory build path I could give to you. And that pretty much covers everything apart from positioning and dragons. So, Urgot's a weird one in this case because if you are an Urgot player who just wants to experiment with Urgot Jungle in general, or you're a new player to Urgot Jungle, Urgot doesn't really have a good way to guarantee smite, right? He can do auto Q, or Q auto to sync it up better. But there's no real way for Urgot to guarantee dragons, unlike Evelyn, who can use her R and smite at the same time, which makes her smite about 2,300, if I'm not mistaken. But Urgot's smite is true to the HP of the dragon, right? There's no real way he can burst it significantly. So what you want to do in teamfight situations against dragon is you want to position yourself here, so you're damaging the dragon, but you also have the opportunity to move to the left or to the right to help stop the enemy jungler from getting into the pit. If the enemy jungler is looking to steal the dragon from, let's say, here, you want to drag the dragon out as much as possible, and then you want to fight it here. Because now if the Talon jumps over the wall, let's say the enemy jumps with the Talon, he now has to go walk from the wall over here, and then your teammate can turn on him, and then you can just kill the Talon before you're needed to smite the dragon, right? So, Urgot should be a first engage when playing jungle. It needs to be positioned on the front line. This is where utility comes into the equation. Because usually Urgot is a second engage champion, but on jungle, he's a first engage champion, due to the nature of picking Urgot jungle in general. Because it does mess up your team comp's harmony and composition. So to compensate for the composition, you just have to play Urgot a bit differently. So you are the first in, last out kind of person, rather than the second in, last out. So let's experience peak schizophrenia. Let's say there's 2, 3, 4 enemy champions here, okay? And you have one... I ran out of things. You have 1, 2, 3 here. So you have 4 people here, 4 people here. You need to be the person to engage the fight by Eing forwards, or maybe over an E-flash or something. But the fight needs to happen around what you think is best for the situation. So let's say your team, Anivia, Caitlyn, Lux. Very good team comp for Urgot. They have Viego, Akshan, and their bot lane will be like Ziggs, Maokai, right? If you E forwards here, E-flash, flip them into your high DPS teammates, you'll decisively win a team fight. Decisively winning that team fight gets you this, right? So that's using flash with good tempo. If you go E and then you hit somebody, if you hit somebody at like, a vulnerable target, like if you hit Maokai, obviously you're going to probably trade 1 for 1. Trading 1 for 1 is not worth it. So this is a situation where you just have to play stagnant. And since you have fleet, you can heal. You've got healing from the river. So that's how you would play out the schizophrenic situation I just gave you. In general, Urgot's purpose later in the game is just... It depends on your build. You can split push if you build Hullbreaker. It's weird because you're a jungler, but it's definitely... Excuse me. It's definitely a viable situation. But that's pretty much it for jungle. If there's any questions I didn't mention... any questions? If there's anything you need answered, just drop a comment. I'll be happy to help you. And over sevens, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm debating doing an Urgot mid guide, but I probably won't do an Urgot ADC guide. I'll do an Urgot support guide for sure, but maybe mid and ADC I'll give it a pass based on interest. Because Urgot mid plays very similar to Urgot top. Might just be a waste of resources. So, Urgot support guide, definitely coming. Let me know what you think about Urgot mid and ADC, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!